Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be comparing the all-new Ford F-150 Lightning to the new Silverado 1500 EV. Before we get in the video though, I do want to mention if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. I will be increasing the price by a little bit in the next few weeks, so if you want to get it at a lower price, I recommend getting it now. With that being said, let's get right into the comparison. Starting with the Lightning, we have two electric motors with the Lightning, and total system output from that is 563 horsepower and then 775 pound-feet of torque, and we're going to have 320 miles of full electric driving range. Now, actually taking a look at the Lightning, you can see the daytime running light is just massive, goes across the entire grille in a light bar format. And then you can see here with the LED headlights, like a normal F-150, but yeah, the light bar is the craziest part, and it seems like a lot of EVs are adopting gigantic light bars. It's just definitely unique from an aesthetic perspective. Notice the whole front grille is closed off for aerodynamic efficiency. It's kind of something they do with EVs. And then you see you got the Ford logo there in the center, like normal, with the little camera at the bottom. And being an EV, not having an engine under the hood, this does have a frunk, which I remember it wasn't like super responsive. I pressed the button and then it took a second, and then it was like, oh, okay, now I want to open. Look at all the outlets there in the front, so definitely adds to the practicality. And storage space is really solid, actually, and the fact that the whole like front kind of comes up too makes it so loading in would be pretty easy. Of course, you got to have that release right there in case someone shoves you in the front of the F-150 Lightning trying to kidnap you. But yeah, overall, great system, and you guys can see it's power up and power down, which definitely adds to the practicality of it. But going from that to the Silverado, we've got two electric motors as well, 400 miles of driving range, 660 horsepower, and then 780 pound-feet of torque, or I should say 664 horsepower to be exact. But yeah, pretty crazy. And again, light bar design there with the front end, and notice the Chevy bow tie is even illuminated, right? It's kind of a interesting thing. I love the dance that the lights do. It's kind of cool. And then notice, just like the Chevy like Blazer, for example, they put the headlights in down below the daytime running lights in a separate area. It's kind of just interesting that Chevy's been doing that with a lot of their vehicles. And you can see with all the blacked out trim there, it looks pretty good. And then notice again, closed off just like the F-150, so that it improves aerodynamic efficiency. And then you can see here with the automated frunk. Storage space is really solid, and it looks like we got one outlet there. We don't have a bunch like the F-150 Lightning, so that is a difference. And it looks like this frunk isn't as big as the Lightnings. It looks like it's a little bit smaller, so definitely take that into account. And then notice we've got our little charging port here for the Lightning. That's definitely a big plus, and it's easy to use. I'm glad that you don't have to like press a button on the interior to open that up. That's something that's kind of annoying. But notice it's kind of frustrating to try to close that. It's like, I don't want to close. Notice with the wheels how they're mostly closed off. That helps out with the aerodynamic efficiency. And then you can see here with the front suspension. From what I've been told, it's similar to like just regular F-150 suspension from a front end perspective. The rears, though, is a lot different. So you can see again with the aerodynamic wheels there. And I guess we'll quickly talk. Doesn't have traditional leaf springs. It's independent rear suspension. So you can see that whole setup. So it should ride significantly different than a traditional F-150. So it'll be interesting to see how it drives when I actually get to drive one. 24-inch wheels over here on the Silverado EV. Now this is for the RST package, which is the most expensive package. So I don't think that we're going to see that on other packages. And then you guys can see with the painted fender flare there. And then notice here with the mirrors as well, how those are all blacked out. And then see here with the side steps, they're fixed. It's interesting that they didn't do power steps. I thought that would kind of be something to do. Now from a rear suspension perspective, notice everything's kind of covered with a wheelhouse liner, so you can't really see anything. But I'm willing to bet that they're probably going to do a similar system to what the F-150 has, where they do independent rear suspension. And then notice light bar on the back as well. So the theme continues here. Got F-150 stamped there into the bed. And you can see with the little lightning bolt in the American flag. Parking sensors there on the rear. And you'll notice here with the F-150 that there's obviously some distinct elements with the Lightning, but a lot of it's just regular F-150. You can see there in the bed, that's a really good example. right? Just have the regular LED lights, have the forward bed step, have the outlets back there, just like what you can get in a Power Boost F-150. And so there's not really a difference with that portion. And then popping back over to the Silverado, you got the bumper step. I can see the taillights definitely unique with how those are stylized. Definitely unique, I will say that. And then we, of course, have the tailgate step, the multi-pro tailgate. And then notice here with the LED lights. And then you can see we've got more outlets here in the bed, so got that practicality. And, maybe, GM has some time before they release this truck, so maybe they'll throw more outlets in the front. We'll see. Time will tell. And then it's got the new trick bed, so where you can fold down the seat in the rear, and then it gives you access to the bed. Pretty unique. I'd have to say that. I haven't seen that in quite some time in a vehicle, and so it's always interesting. And then, of course, it has that like bar that makes it look like an avalanche. And then popping into the interior, this one's a Lariat F-150 Lightning. You can get it in the Platinum as well. And so you guys are going to see just Lariat interior for the rear. Bang & Olufsen sound system, which you guys know I'm a fan of. And then same thing with the seats. You just got the Lariat seats. So they're nice seats. They're comfortable. That's definitely something. And I like the two-tone on these particular seats. And then you can see the underseat storage. Again, if you're familiar with the F-150, this is just going to... It's just going to feel like a regular F-150 with the interior, which I think is a big plus with the Lightning, that it doesn't feel too different. And then notice you got the heated seats down below and then the power outlets. Some people might say, oh, I wish that it was more different so that it feels more unique. But at the same time, it's like, well, since it feels familiar, it's not as big of a jump to go and get into one, because you're like, oh, it's just like my truck, right? Panoramic sunroof as well, which you kind of expect on a luxury truck, right? And then moving back over to the Silverado, you guys can see here with the rear. Now the RST package is very expensive. This is technically several levels up above a Lariat. But basically what you need to know is that it's a lot more expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. But material use is nice. And I like the design, how they've stylized everything. And you see the seats too. You're going to see a lot of stuff in this truck that's been pulled out of the Hummer EV. So they've basically just taken a lot of stuff and thrown it over, and the seats kind of remind me of that with the material use, and it's so cool how the seats fold up. Even though I don't know like how often someone would use it, it's just cool that it has that practicality function. So I think that's a big plus. And then popping here to the front of the F-150 Lightning, you can see again regular Lariat door panel. So if you've seen a new body style Lariat, this is all going to look identical from a material standpoint, and with all the controls. And we've got the memory seats, and then you can see blind spot monitoring there for the mirrors, another speaker for the Bang & Olufsen sound system, and then you can see regular headrests. This doesn't have the speaker headrests, but looking at the seats, normal Lariat seats, power adjustments there on the side, and then notice here with the mirror lights, and then you guys can see here with like the tailgate drop down and all that, and then the light controls right here, and then the parking brake, pedal adjustment, all that normal stuff, and then there are the pedals down below. And then notice this material right here, a little bit different than what you get in an F-150, so they kind of mix that up with the dash. Now popping back over to the Silverado EV. Again, look at the material use on the door panel and the design. I'd say like the touch points seem nicer with the Silverado EV, but this doesn't like there's still just as much plastic in this as there is in the F-150, so that's something to kind of consider. But the seats definitely look a lot cooler from a material standpoint. Like these seats look like they should be in a spaceship, so I think that's cool. And then power adjustments there on the side, and then the pedals actually look nice too, so that's another big plus. And then notice all your regular controls that you are probably familiar with a normal Silverado, trailer brake controls too. And then you can see there with the venting, and then I actually like that design portion on the dash. I think that looks great. Now popping back into the F-150 Lightning, you can see here with the steering wheel, normal controls here. So you got like your cruise control. This does have adaptive cruise control, and it does have lane keep assist, and Blue Cruise will also be available with the new Lightning. And then also it says the charge, and it says 273 miles of range, which I thought it's interesting because it's 99% charge, because the EPA rating is 320, so whatever. Anyways, we've got the tablet infotainment system, so this is something that's different than a regular F-150, right? Because regular F-150 has the horizontal screen, whereas this one's got the vertical screen out of the Mustang Mach-E. So some of you might like it, some of you might not like it. Drive mode is in the screen, which is kind of interesting. Got the 360 camera system. I guess I will put my personal opinion. I think the horizontal screen is better. It looks more integrated into the dash. And I don't know, I think it's just more user-friendly. This screen's kind of, it's not bad by any means. It just doesn't seem like it's as easy to use or as straightforward, right? And it's annoying that there's a lot of stuff buried in the screen, whereas the regular F-150 just has a lot of physical buttons for things. So that's something that some of you might not like about the Lightning, potentially. But, I mean, other than that, it's a good system overall. You guys can see response time with it is fantastic. And then you notice you got the analog controls for the climate, and then your heated, cooled seats down below on the heated steering wheel. Notice you can slide up or down depending on which one you want. That's another thing that I'm like, I just want a physical button. But at least there's a shortcut button right there on the screen, so that makes things a little bit easier. And of course, we have our Pro Trailer Assist, and then trailer brake controls. And then again, they got rid of the whole drive mode select thing. And then your parking assist and stability control, all that. And then notice the little trim piece that covers up the wireless phone charger right there. Then we got the shifter for the 10-speed automatic transmission. Notice how that folds up and down. Then here's the center console. Pretty normal. Got the workbench function, and then you can see storage space there. Again, this is all going to just look like regular F-150, including the glove box. Again, material use in the dash a little bit different. And then you can see there with the little outlets. So there's tons of outlets in the F-150 Lightning. That's definitely a big plus. And then the sunglass holder. Then, of course, we've got a power sliding window in the rear. Then again, you got the panoramic sunroof there, and the controls for it. Now, popping over back to the Silverado EV, really like the steering wheel in terms of the design on it. It looks a lot nicer than a regular Silverado steering wheel. And then it's going to have, the Super Cruise and everything with it. So you can see the paddle shifters there in the back, which are plastic, which I'm surprised that they didn't do a little bit nicer material use on those. And then you see the DH cluster looks really cool, futuristic. Again, I think they did a great job with that from a gauge cluster perspective. And then you can see here with the rest of the infotainment system. Looks a little bit different than Chevy's newest infotainment system, but still really user-friendly, it looks like. And then you can see the controls down below, right here for the climate system. And notice the center console area is a little bit different here with the Silverado EV in terms of the storage space and everything, because you don't have a shifter. And then look at the material use again. There's a lot of contrast. I think they did a really good job with the contrast in materials. And you guys are going to remember, this is a pre-production unit, so the fit and finish on everything's not going to be perfect. And then really nice headliner too. And then just like most EVs, glass roof, but it's not sunroof, so it doesn't open. That's something I've always thought is interesting about EVs, that they do that. But then here's kind of like a exterior walk around quickly of the Silverado EV so you guys can see it. I didn't get an exterior shot of the F-150, sadly. I got some shots on the outside, but not like a full shot like this. But it's just F-150 with light bars basically, so it's not a huge difference. And yeah, let's get into summing things up. So first off, right, the Silverado EV is set to beat the F-150 from a range perspective, power perspective, acceleration perspective as well. It seems like Chevy waited for the Lightning to come out, and they're like, okay, we got to beat them with all those specs. So there is that. Stylistically, right, the F-150 is an F-150, whereas the Silverado EV looks so much different than a regular Silverado. So there is that to consider. And then from an interior perspective, again, regular F-150 interior, there's a few differences, like the infotainment system, for example, but most of it regular F-150 interior. And then the Silverado EV, it's basically Silverado mixed with Hummer EV is kind of what that interior looks like. The one thing I will say is, again, the RST is very expensive. It's over $100,000, and that interior doesn't quite look like $100,000. Super futuristic and cool, but I think that, I don't know, there should be a little bit less plastic in my personal opinion. As for the F-150, like I said, some of you might not like the fact that it's not super unique, but some of you might love that because, again, it will feel more normal to you. And so we have two completely different approaches, right, to their first EV trucks from both of these automakers. We've got Chevy going all out with a just radically different design and, interior and all that kind of stuff, whereas Ford's like, you know what, we're just going to stick with what we do right now and we'll kind of go with that. And so it depends on what route you want. Do you want something that feels a little bit more familiar, or do you want to take the leap to something that feels a little bit more on the futuristic slash new design route. So it's really just going to depend. But let me know which one you guys would pick.